It is 7:03, and so I will call to order this meeting of the Noblesville Common Council. We will all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. O'Connor, you're over there by the flag. Please.
I'd be happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Lees, will you call the roll?
Mr. Ayer.
Present.
Mr. Boyce.
Present.
Mr. Davis.
Present.
Mr. O'Connor.
Present.
Mr. Peterson.
Here.
Mr. Schwartz. Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Sparks.
Present.
Ms. Wiles.
Present.
Madam President, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Moving on to the approval of the minutes from the December 6th retreat.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the December 6th retreat. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Approval of the minutes from the December 6th council meeting.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the December 6th council meeting. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7 and 7-0 abstention and 1 abstention. Approval of the agenda.
Madam President,
Mr. Smith.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Petitions or comments by citizens who are present. If anyone would like to speak, please fill out a comment card, but I don't have any, so we will continue to move on with our agenda. And we will go to the council committee reports for the Finance Committee. Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Madam President. We met December 15th. Greg O'Connor, Darren Peterson, Aaron Smith, and myself. And Chuck Haberman discussed with us an economic development agreement with the Washington Business Park for a new building, a third spec building going up there. Jess Spalding discussed 2023 IAV growth levy appeal. And he also talked with us bond sale for capital project short-term general obligation bond of 2022. Patty Johnson discussed a fiscal action for street department equipment. Ian Zalgowski talked to routine appropriation for transfers for the fourth quarter. Steve Stryker talked about a routine appropriation of grant proceeds for the fourth quarter. And Steve Stryker also discussed an update of the 2022 year-end encompasses that we carry forward every time at this year. Matt Light discussed a request for approval of an amendment to the salary ordinance of 2023. All that, and the claims come to the council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much. Any questions of Mr. Davis? Finance Committee.
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor.
I move we approve the claims as submitted. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the claims as submitted. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Before we move on to previously discussed ordinances, Mr. Smith has something that he would like to share.
Yeah, a quick deviation from the agenda. Each year the council awards a stake in the ground. It's an award presented by the council to the department head or city employee that has gone above and beyond throughout the year. Alan Hines developed the award years ago and stated that it was to be given to a city employee that put a stake in the ground that Noblesville should be exceptional. This year's recipient has made significant progress in their department for the city of Noblesville. They have boosted morale, clearly communicated with stakeholders, both internal and external, and made processes easy to understand, all with a smile on their face. Council members describe them as unfailingly positive, a hard worker, and someone who has equipped her staff to move a number of large projects forward. Another said that she's spent many hours working through sensitive negotiations and has done well with protecting the city and taxpayer money. She's gone above and beyond to push the city of Noblesville forward, and that's why this year's stake in the ground goes to our city engineer, Allie Krupski.
You have to come get pictures.
Speech.
Pictures.
Wait, where's Emily?
That's all right.
Sorry, I'll stop.
Honestly,
She also got one of our streets renamed. Pleasant Street to Unpleasant Street.
historic Pleasant Street. Anyway, wow, I feel like I'm gonna cry, but I'll try not to. Thank you. I have tried to emphasize a lot with everything that we've done in the engineering department that it's a team. I know that the department would not be successful without the rest of the engineering staff, and I'm just super thankful. I see so many other directors and staff members in here that have also made us successful. And then also coming back to the support of the council and the administration. This really just goes to everybody as a team, so thank you. It means a lot to me.
There we go.
One, two, three. One more time. One, two, three. Congratulations, Alan. Small but mighty.
The state or
Okay, we'll go back to the agenda of the previously discussed ordinance. Council to consider ordinance number 74-12-22, an ordinance approving an additional appropriation in the parking meter fund to provide additional funding for cost of parking management services engaged after the annual budget was adopted. Mr. Zalgowski, good evening.
Yes, good evening. Once again, this is just requesting an additional appropriation. In 2021, we had budgeted the parking meter fund, believing that we would be operating this the city parking completely in-house, but we decided early in 2022 that we were going to go with a third-party vendor. That resulted in additional costs, not just for the services, but in changing some of the equipment in our parking garages. So this is just asking for additional appropriation to cover those costs.
Thank you. Any questions of Mr. Zalgowski? Seeing none, I will move to, I will open the public hearing for ordinance 74-12-22.
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
seeing no one from the public come forward, I move to close the public hearing for ordinance number 74-12-22.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for ordinance. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0.
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move that we approve ordinance number 74-12-22.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 74-12-22. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Lees?
Mr. Air?
Aye.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Sparks?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nay. The ordinance is approved.
Thank you very much. Council to consider ordinance number 75-12-22, an ordinance approving an additional appropriation in the cumulative capital development fund to authorize the expenditure of insurance proceeds deposited into the fund. Mr. Zalgowski?
Yeah, thank you. We call that fund CCD for short because it is a little bit of a tongue twister.
Try that the next time, yes.
So this one, we had a couple of, specifically we had 2 police vehicles that were involved in accidents. Our insurance company paid us out for those vehicles, but we needed to put that revenue someplace and use that revenue to replace those vehicles. We put that revenue in the CCD fund and spent it out of the CCD fund. We're just asking for the permission to spend those insurance proceeds.
Any questions? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing for ordinance 75-12-22.
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor?
seeing no one from the public come forward, I'd move to close the public hearing for ordinance 75-12-22.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for ordinance 75-12-22. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. Just that.
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor.
I move we approve ordinance 75-12-22 as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 75-12-22 as presented. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Lees.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Sparks?
Aye.
Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
Council to consider ordinance number 76-12-22, an ordinance approving an additional appropriation in the Parks Program Fund to authorize the expenditure of additional revenue collected due to the growth in the city's golf operations, which has generated more cost. Mr. Zogowski.
Yes, thank you. We're going to end on good news, at least with my presence up here. So our golf really outpaced expectations this year. Revenues were sky high, but with those additional revenues, additional business, there were additional costs associated with that as well. So our expenses exceeded what we had budgeted in 2022, but that is tied to higher revenues. Just asking for permission to cover those expenses.
Questions? If not, then I will open the public hearing for ordinance number 76-12-22.
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor.
seeing no one from the public coming forward, I move to close the public hearing for ordinance 76-12-22.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to close the public hearing for ordinance 76-12-22. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0.
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor.
I move we approve ordinance number 76-12-22 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 76-12-22 as presented. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Lees.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Sparks?
Aye.
Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
Thank you all very much.
Council to consider ordinance number 78-12-22, an ordinance adopting a change of zoning from R1 Single Family Residential and PB Planned Business to R5 Multifamily Residential and PB Planned Business for approximately 34 acres south of State Road 32, Westfield Road, and east of Hazeldale Road. Mrs. Reed.
Yes, surprise. I pulled in for Joyce Ann today at Board of Works as well. She is being forced to take some vacation because you have to do that to her sometimes. You have to make her do it and make her reassured that everything's under control. So I think it's good that she trusts me.
Watching online.
She probably is, if she is watching. Hello, Joyce Ann. This item before you is one that you all have seen about 1,000 times. This is the second reading this evening. So to President Wiles' point, this is 34 acres on the southeast corner of 32 in Hazeldale. We are working with Secure Holdings, and Mr. Jim Adams is in the audience here tonight. This is being rezoned 12 acres to planned business. The remaining 22 acres is multifamily. This is a mixed-use development that includes Old Town development, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions?
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor.
is there a question?
No, you got it.
I move we approve ordinance 78-12-22 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve ordinance number 78-12-22 as presented. This is a roll call vote. Ms. Lees.
Mr. O'Connor?
Aye.
Mr. Peterson?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Sparks?
Aye.
Mr. Ayers?
Aye.
Mr. Boyce?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. Wiles?
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nay, the ordinance is approved.
Thank you very much.
New ordinance for discussion. Council to consider ordinance number 63-10-22A, an ordinance amending ordinance number 63-10-22, the 2023 salary ordinance for appointed officials and employees for the city of Noblesville.
Move to introduce.
Second.
Mr. Light.
Thank you, President Wiles, council members. Before you for consideration is a request to amend the annual salary ordinance for employees In this year's budget process, we focused, for a couple of reasons, just on cost of living considerations when we made our overall budget presentation to you. As a follow-on step, we asked department directors to look at merit considerations for their staff and to identify any recommendations they would make to the mayor's office on merit increases using the personal services contingency amount that was included in the budget. And in that process, we're attempting to balance several factors, including retention of key staff and, of course, being good stewards of available funds. Of the recommendations for merit-based increases, there were 7 that, to make those work, required an adjustment to the salary ordinance. Those are the ones that are in front of you on the proposal. The salary structure that we adopted working with First Person in late 2021 helped to put us in a better framework, but it was a structure that we expected to evolve and to have tweaks along the way as we make adjustments both to job duties within departments, reorganization of functions, and update job descriptions to better reflect the complexities and the nature of the work that's done within those departments. So for example, a couple of the ones that are included here, the custodian maintenance technician, the equipment maintenance technician, and the senior mechanic are all positions that their job complexities have increased and their job descriptions have changed recently. So that is the rationale behind the request, and I would be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Light? Seeing none?
Thank you.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Thank you. Miscellaneous item number 1. Council to receive a summary of fiscally neutral fourth quarter appropriation transfers pursuant to Resolution RC-1-22, Section 1. Mr. Spalding.
Madam President, members of the council, Jeff Spalding, CFO and Controller. Again, this is not an action for you, but a report, and starting to become a fairly routine thing, as it's a recurring process that we've put in place the last couple of years. So what you have before you is a summary of the smaller amount, relatively neutral, or a good word is benign, fiscal actions that have to happen routinely throughout the year. Again, as the fiscal body for the city, all of the movement and transfer of appropriations are approved by you, but through this resolution that you provide to my office at the beginning of the year, we agree to come to you each quarter and for those relatively small items, report back to you what things we did to move money around, within a department's budget to address their various operational needs. And that's what this report does today. And it was presented to the Finance Committee on Thursday. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Any questions of Mr. Spalding? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to council to receive a summary of appropriation of fourth quarter grant proceeds pursuant to Resolution RC-2-22. Mr. Spalding.
Yes, again, Jeff Spalding, CFO and Controller, and very similar, but not exactly the same as the last action. Similar in construct and concept, different because this deals with actually the appropriating, allowing funds that we receive to be expended. And again, what this resolution does and what this report is doing in compliance with that resolution is if we receive grant funds to the city and the grant is so narrowly defined that there's only one thing that you can do with the money, then we go through the process. We deposit the money in a grant fund. We allow the department to spend it and, in effect, appropriate it, because the council action to appropriate it is somewhat redundant at that point. The purpose of the grant already defines it. And so we've done that in this, in this report. And then the additional thing, there's a second section in here, and what we've started to do is any other grant money that we receive during that quarter, we also report, and occasionally we receive some grant money that we didn't spend or didn't appropriate for any number of reasons. The primary reason might be there is an item that was funded in the city's budget, and we were able to receive some grant money to reimburse the city and refill our coffers, but there's no need to appropriate it to spend it because the expenditure already occurred out of other appropriated funds. So that's what this report does, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Spalding on this report? Okay. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Move on to miscellaneous item number 3. Council to consider resolution RC-56-22, a resolution approving an economic development agreement with Patch Washington Business Park, Lot 3 LLC. Mr. Haberman, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm excited to bring before you the next chapter in the Washington Business Park story. You'll recall in March of 21, the council approved Phase 1 of Washington Business Park, and then ahead of schedule in March of 22, the second phase, which is would total 142 acres of a business park development. This project that is in front of you tonight is for Lot 3, which you see there in the lower right-hand corner, on the corner of 151st effectively and Cumberland Road. This will be a 130,000 square foot flex industrial building, speculative building. Patch Development, who Alex Chittenden is here tonight representing, will invest $11.5 million to build this. We're very excited, as you can see in the exhibit. There's a number of leased spaces in the buildings that they've already constructed, and we have confidence in their abilities to secure tenants for this building as well. We're currently submitting on leads, this project, this building specifically, for leads that we receive from various sources. So the project, our support, the city, what we're asking you to approve tonight would be the economic development agreement in the way of a tax abatement, 7 years, 50% across the board. That comes with a favorable recommendation from the Finance Committee that we presented to last week. I'm happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any questions of Mr. Haberman?
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move to approve RC-56-22.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve RC-56-22 as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7 in favor and 1 abstention. Thank you. Council to consider resolution RC-57-22, a resolution approving real property tax abatements for Patch Washington Business Park, Lot 3 LLC. It's easier for me to say it than WBC. Mr. Haberman.
This is a resolution approving the tax abatement and all the procedural requirements to make that happen. And so you'll see there in the SB1 that is attached, there's a more detailed engineer site plan and a legal description of the area that will be a economic revitalization area in order for us to distribute the tax abatement.
Questions of Mr. Haberman on this item?
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor?
I move to approve resolution RC-57-22 as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve resolution RC-57-22 as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 7. Any abstentions? Mr. Peterson, thank you very much. Council to consider resolution RC-58-22, a resolution concerning acquisition of real property. Mr. Light. Sorry, I spoke too quickly.
Thank you, President Wiles, members of council. We're pleased to present for your review a resolution that would authorize the mayor to take actions to acquire portions of the Firestone property on Division Street here in Noblesville. As many of you know, this property has been vacant since 2009, since Firestone ceased its operations in Noblesville. And since then, there have been extensive discussions, negotiations surrounding the city acquiring that site and repurposing it for the benefit of the community. During that process, there was extensive environmental analysis and review of environmental data. Anna Fadness from Acuity is here tonight, and she's been instrumental in that process so that we could be confident in the safety of the site for use going forward. There's also been extensive legal negotiations around liability protections, indemnities, and the framework within which the city would operate under the agreement to repurpose the site and to put either municipal buildings or nonprofit buildings or other things going forward. So through that process, we've been satisfied that through the negotiations, we've reached a point where it's a satisfactory deal, a positive deal for the city of Noblesville, and appreciate your consideration of the resolution. I do want to make clear that no final decisions have been made for repurposing of the site. We've contemplated various things, had discussions with departments and other stakeholders, but the mayor's directive to me and the team was to first work on acquiring the site on fair terms, and then we can have real conversations with stakeholders about what the future would look like. So that's what's in front of you this evening, is just to authorize the mayor to take the final steps to acquire that property, and then we can move forward to next phases after that. I appreciate your consideration and would be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of Mr. Light on this item?
Madam President,
Mr. O'Connor?
I am thrilled to be able to recommend approval of Resolution RC-58-22 as submitted.
I'm thrilled to second it.
No, we're all arguing about it.
It has been moved and seconded to approve RC-58-22 as presented. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. And we can celebrate. Council to consider 2023 appointments from Mrs. Leeds.
Good evening. At your last meeting, you were notified that you have several appointments that are expiring, and those are 2 appointments to the Facade Grant Review Committee. John Adams and Sandy Stewart have agreed to serve again. An appointment to the Plan Commission, which Mr. Boyce is willing to serve on. 2 appointments to the Redevelopment Commission. Jack Martin and Rick Taylor are willing to continue serving. And an appointment to the Tree Board. Jennifer Roberts is willing to continue serving, and we're just asking for your vote tonight so that they can be appointed.
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move to appoint the nominees as presented.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to appoint the nominees as presented.
Can we have discussion, Madam President?
You want discussion?
Is Mr. Boyce really going to do this?
I'm abstaining from this.
Nobody's happy with it.
Third time
I'm
around.
thrilled Jennifer's going to do it.
Third time I'm a little ticked. I'm a little ticked at the person sitting next to you. Not gonna lie.
You do such a fine job that you need.
Okay, all those in favor, this is a hand vote. All those in favor.
I'm abstaining.
Raise your right hand. Okay.
I know, but it just makes me feel better, okay? I'm gonna sleep better.
Any against?
No, I'm not against, I'm just gonna abstain.
Okay, abstention, one abstention.
Yeah.
Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce, for your service.
Thank you, Mr. Boyce. We appreciate your service on the Plan Commission.
Wow. Thrilled to get to see you.
Transfers, item number 1. Council to consider transfer TA-21-22, an appropriation transfer in the local road and street fund to cover the cost for equipment purchase disrupted by delays and price increases that invalidated the original funding source. Mr. Zogowski.
Yeah, hi, good evening. This one, a little bit complicated, comes with a little bit of a story. So in 2021, we had planned to purchase 3 trailers at a certain price. Those trailers were not going to be completed. By the end of 2021, we found out they would not be completed until 2022. So we have a process where we can actually carry forward those appropriations. They do get tied to a specific vendor for a specific amount. 2022 rolls around, those trailers become available for sale. Due to market conditions, namely inflation, they're no longer available for sale at the price that we initially intended. So because we weren't able to go with that initial vendor, those appropriated funds from 2021 ended up getting canceled out, recognized as about $24,000 worth of savings from the 2021 budget. So we're in 2022 and 3 trailers come up for sale from a different vendor. We had to move fast and purchase these trailers. They were at a much lower price than what market conditions were having us expect. So we purchased those trailers. The amount is $34,000, which is the amount of the transfer that we're requesting from contingency to cover that. Again, though, you have to add in the $24,000 worth of savings that we didn't spend from the 2021 budget to kind of offset that. So this is just asking permission to transfer those funds from contingency.
Questions for Mr. Zarkowski?
Madam President,
Mr. Smith?
I move to approve transfer TA-21-22.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve transfer TA-21-22 as presented. This is a hand vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. 8-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've come to the end of the agenda. Unfortunately, Mayor Johnson stepped away to be with his family for a meeting this evening, and I thought that he might be back in time, but he's not. But so he wanted to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holiday Season. But are there any other council comments this evening?
I have one.
Yes.
This is also a recognition as well, since it is your last meeting as president. We had a very busy year, and we considered a lot of important projects that came forward, and you dealt with it amazingly. So,
Well, thank you very much.
this is in honor of your presidency.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you. Okay, come on, we gotta see pictures. Picture time. Thank you, Matt. Thank you all very much. Is there anything else, Mr. Air?
A quick comment, because I have to go with, you can't find anything to do in Noblesville, you're making a mistake. I saw that Mayor Jensen took his family for a carriage ride, I think last evening. And so we have a lot going on. We have skating out at Federal Hill, ice skating, we have carriage rides, we have lots of vendors downtown open, and we hope you shop downtown locally. Santa Claus is at Federal Hill. If he's not there, he's at the courthouse square. So a lot to do. Anybody want to add to that list? I'm sure there's something else. Seminary Park's beautiful.
Gorgeous. Yep.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay. Anyone else?
One more.
Mr. O'Connor?
Please be safe over the weekend. We've got some interesting weather coming in, so I'm going to give kudos to our street department beforehand, because I know they will be there, but please be safe and be careful if you're out and about.
Agreed. Okay. With that, we are adjourned.